close my window. I got so much natural light in the space.
Hey.
Sorry, y'all are getting a boob in your face.
This got real deep real quick.
We like to keep it spicy.
Spicy tea.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome in, welcome everybody. We are waiting on Audria. I hope she can get in.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Goodness.
And you guys can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you perfect. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hold on, I'm taking a picture of us.
Oh, Chris, no surprise today. I didn't have time to surprise you.
What? Oh, I know. Where's my hat? Where's my something?
Goodness.
I didn't have time to do any surprises today.
Boo!
Oh, here she is. Here's Audria.
I'm kind of curious while we're starting if people in the comments want to tell us about what we've been talking a lot about our joy, which I know we're going to get into later, but I'm curious for people that are watching, like what their joy is today. Hello, Audria.
We did it! We got 4 people on screen.
I'll take another picture with all 4 of us.
Okay.
Oh, goodness.
That's
Welcome.
Okay.
Yes.
Welcome, everyone. We are spilling some tea with some special guests this week. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Okay.
I saw a little camera clean. I saw that, Audria.
Did we lose her?
Just trying to be crispy, trying to be crispy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are spilling some tea this week with some special guests. We have Mase and we have Audria LB. Why don't you guys start off telling us a little bit about yourselves and why you're here this week?
Yeah. So my name is Mase III. Y'all can call me Mase for short. I use he, him as pronouns, and I'm a co-director and producer for the upcoming documentary, The Black Trans Prayer Book.
My name is Audria LB. I use they, them, theirs, and she, her, hers pronouns. I am a Black trans feminine filmmaker and poet, and I am one of the co-directors of the Black Trans Prayer Book documentary.
Awesome to have you guys. And we have the lovely and amazing Chris Love, as usual, and me, Cessi Sparrow. So let's start the show. We have a lot to talk about this week. It's kind of been a wild week of news, but also maybe not as wild. Let's start off talking about, I lost my, hang on, here we go. Sorry, I lost my script, y'all. Let's start off talking about Julius Jones.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah with a little, we were talking about just some of the complications of being excited about the news, but for everyone who's watching and maybe hasn't gotten the news yet, because I know I just got it like maybe an hour before we got on here and just been crying since then. But Julius Jones has been taken off the death penalty, so we're all excited about that on some level, and also really struggling with the complications of what does it mean for that person who is clearly innocent to be still incarcerated in the state.
Without the possibility of parole, which, yikes.
Shouts out to Oklahoma. I think this is news that I was not expecting, actually, and I think that Mase, you had said that you thought it would be completely different and we were going to have to talk about this in a different light. And I was thinking the same thing. I was kind of bracing myself for the worst. But, I feel like this is good news. Anytime you get someone who is exonerated, it's good news. And it's time, it's a time for celebration, because I think we feel like, even though there is a lot of injustice in the justice system, it feels like finally there's a little bit like a modicum of some kind of justice being served here, even though it's, I wouldn't view it as justice, right?
Right.
The system worked out in our favor by like 1/64th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they decided to throw us
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Right.
And just all that labor people had to expend even to get to this point. It's like, you know,
yeah.
just thinking about all the different thousands of videos, thousands of people that were protesting, thousands of people that have been trying to share the news, and millions of people that signed petitions, right? Like millions of people signing petitions just to get to this point of, you know, still being a bit gaslit, but good news, but gaslit. You know?
Yeah, especially yesterday, they had, was it several high schools, the kids walked out
Yeah.
in an action, which that is tremendous, you know, because these were out of state, you know, across the nation. So, but my heart also goes out to the family of Julius Jones and Julius Jones himself. I mean, when you look at all of the things they have done to prepare this man to die today.
Right.
And it's been like this over the course of what, weeks or so? Well, I mean, specifically since we knew the date was a hard date, like the last few things he's had to go through over what, the last 48 hours or so. And the fact that for, I don't know how many weeks he's been literally his cell has been feet away from the executioner, the people that were supposed to take his life. That's the mental anguish, the what they put him through, and he's still going through, because now it's, yes, he gets to live, but he's still living in a box. You know, he's still not really getting to live his full life. And as I mentioned in the pre-show, we do have a pre-show, y'all, where we get our act together. You can't tell by me, but we try to get our act together in the pre-show. As I mentioned, you know, I'm not the lawyer, but the case itself stinks, you know, it just absolutely stinks. And Chris, you had a comment on that.
Yeah, all of these cases stink. You know, yes, not to be funny, but to be funny, quite frankly, they all stink. I did my, this is how I knew I never wanted to practice criminal law. And my first year, my first summer after my first year, I interned at the Federal Defender Capital Habeas Unit, which is like last stop death penalty appeals. And it was terrible. Number one, it was just terrible. Number two, everyone is a victim, right? When you look at the history of the perpetrators, most of them have mental health issues that have gone unaddressed. And most of them have been folks who've suffered abuse and violence. And you look at the violence that they've committed against the folks that are the victims, and it's just, there are no good sides in any of it. And the cases can be quite terrible. And, you know, that's just the law. The law is about procedure more than anything else, technicality, proving the elements. And sometimes prosecutors do shitty things to make their cases. And the way that our system is set up with respect to how we appeal decisions, you know, it's not an appeal because he's really innocent. You know, you can only appeal if there's some kind of procedural error or ineffective assistance of counsel or what have you. So the system is not set up in a way to really do it right. So this man may be innocent, and, you know, what they've done is just commuted his death sentence to life with the possibility of parole, which is another death sentence.
Yeah.
So you know, when we're celebrating, we need to be aware of that. We also need to be aware that the system is not law and order. It's not law and order SVU. Nothing gets wrapped up in a pretty bow in an hour. And, you know, a lot of these cases, there are so many folks that have been exonerated, and so many folks that are waiting for the exoneration, and there are more folks waiting than there are attorneys that can help them. That there are, you know, folks that are governors willing to commute sentences. So we're constantly putting innocent people to death, and that's a hard burden. That's a hard cross to bear, especially as someone who's an officer of the court. That's why I don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But send me your contracts. I'll read those all day.
Yeah. Mase, you wanted to make the link between the Julius Jones case and how trans folks are treated in the carceral state and state violence.
Right, because even especially, Chris, when you were talking about, people get put to death all the time. It's like they get put to death through lethal injection. They also just get put to death on the street, right? And so earlier I was thinking so much about the cases of Maya Hall and Tony McDade, two Black trans folks that were specifically murdered by the police, right? And so, and the countless others of Black trans folks, not just that get murdered by police, but also incarcerated without any kind of hope of getting out, that are consistently targeted for being seen. Our mere existence is seen as suspicious, is seen as antithetical to the legal system. And so I think that's what's happening with Julius Jones, what's been happening with on the street for Black trans folks forever, is also just a continuing case for abolition, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Amen.
Yeah, and just thank you so much about how this is, this case that we're seeing versus like other cases that we're seeing right now, and especially in conjunction. I know that Audria, earlier you were talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and specifically, I think some comments by Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, it was either last night or this morning. I don't know today. I think it might have been the thing that I woke up to. Was that Matt Gaetz is sort of.
Oh, I'm sorry, you seem a little far away from the mic for some reason.
Yeah.
Is this any better?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Behave.
Oh,
do you have?
Oh,
yeah.
wait. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, something just happened now. Do you have headphones on, or do you have earbuds?
Yeah.
Or something? Yeah, you might want to take those off because something happened with those headphones. The headphones are anti-Black.
Okay.
Today. I don't know what the
How's
headphones are
this?
doing, but they.
Oh,
That's
so
a lot
better.
better. That's a lot
Much
better.
better.
Yeah.
How much better? All right.
Yes. So
I'll
you
just
were
try to
saying
keep
about
steady
Matt
hands.
Gaetz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida has expressed interest that he wants to hire Rittenhouse as an intern. And that is something that is just so heinous and disgusting to me. Because when it comes to a lot of the way that political parties work in this country, like, a lot of the racism is meant to be covert, like they're not especially obvious. Sometimes, one party more than other, we can argue about it or not. But yeah, just like what utter just disrespect to witness.
Fun fact, Rittenhouse stated on the stand that he is attending nursing school here in Arizona at Arizona State University. Okay. Now, Arizona State is like, actually.
Well, too soon there, Kyle.
They pulled up, well, actually, he doesn't go here. He's applied for a non-degree program that you would actually need to apply to get into the school, and he hasn't done that yet and whatnot. But it's, the doors will open for him. And I think it's interesting that Matt Gaetz was the one that was like, yeah, I'll take him as an intern, because one predator deserves another, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And right. And Matt Gaetz, I don't know that he's long for the Congress, much longer for Congress anyway. I hope they get his ass. I hope they make the case that they need to make to get his ass, get him out of Congress and put him wherever he needs to be put. But yeah, we knew that this kind of thing was coming. And I said that Rittenhouse is just, new school George, what's his name?
Zimmerman.
Listen, I've tried to block that man out of my memory. George Zimmerman is who he is. He's the new school George Zimmerman. So he's going to have a long career of being a conservative celebrity of some sort. Anyway, so I think that's just, he ain't going to jail. He's not going to prison. He's not He won't be convicted, so he will be out there. He'll be the next Tucker Carlson or something.
But even worse, because, you know, Tucker Carlson, as far as I know, I don't know that Tucker Carlson ever shot anyone, right? But all these different, you know.
But do you not know? But do you not?
I don't know. I don't consciously know. You know, there could be some stuff. You know, he got enough money to make lots of things disappear, so I don't consciously know, right? Which always reminds me just of, you know, because in this way that we watch how people that are perceived as criminals are treated, right? I just always remind people, it's like everyone's a criminal. Everyone has committed some sort of crime, right? So like this illusion, this imaginary line between like, oh, this is what happens to these folks. It's like, you too are someone, like if you are over 25 in this country, there's nothing in my mind that says you have not committed a crime, right? It's just whether or not you're honest with yourself about it, whether or not you consciously knew it at the time, but that's
and whether or not you get caught.
Whether or not you get caught, some people will never be seen as criminals regardless of what they do.
Right. And I mean, this man has killed people.
Right.
And it's still bending over backwards for him. But I think it also brings that, you know, there's also a question about what we criminalize in the first place. Right. And yes, everybody is a criminal. It's because we criminalize the dumbest shit.
And Cessi, I don't know if we're there yet, because I know so in the pre-show, y'all, we went over the order of things today. So we went over an order. And so I don't know if we at that place. But when you were saying that, Chris, I was really reminded of the article you were reading, Cessi, about anti-trans laws. And I thought one of the points that you made was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so that's in the getting shit off our chest segment, which we are happy we have arrived naturally there.
You know, screw an order. You know, like we gotta buy it, right?
Right. Yeah. So there are, according to the 19th, there are 102 anti-trans bills in 7 states. However, the word transgender only appears 8 times between all 102 bills, which I think one of you guys had a clever way of rephrasing that, like the visibility of trans folks without actually like acknowledging their existence. And isn't that like the trick of the Republican Party? You know, they back legislation that effectively attempts to erase people and remove rights where it shouldn't be.
Well, and so I'm sorry, Audrey, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I didn't have.
You're like, I was just saying, yeah. I was just agreeing. Okay.
Yeah.
But because what I'm thinking, and Chris, you might know more, because I know Chris, you're the law expert. I'm just, you know, I hang out sometimes, you know, when it's relevant to me, you know. But you know, the first anti-trans laws in the U.S. that I'm aware of is in 1878 in Ohio, right? And so that law wasn't necessarily like trans people are the devil or like, you know, incarcerate trans people. It was pretty much saying we were lying about our identities, right? And so that much of the laws that are anti-trans don't have to say trans, because it's about making illegal the very conditions in which we live, as well as our very rights to be honest about who we are, right? And so it looks in so many different ways, from anti-houselessness laws, right? Laws around IDs, laws around voting laws, and the ways that voting laws come up for us, the ways that we're able to access medical care, the ways that we're able to access facilities. There's all kinds of sneaky ways, and especially for Black trans folks. There's so many different ways to criminalize Black, brown, and indigenous trans folks without having to say anything about our race or our gender. But those laws always impact Black and brown and indigenous trans people more than anybody else.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's not a coincidence that we have seen 102 of these anti-trans bills in the last legislative session, you know, in the wake of Joe Biden becoming the president. And
I just can't help but remember the time that he told us that, like, oh, trans kids out there in the US, your president has your back. So, like, what are you doing about this concerted effort to erase, eliminate, criminalize trans people?
Nothing. And it's funny because it was, you know, after the first 100 days, he's only been in office for 100 days. And then it was, oh, he's only been in office for 6 months. And then it was, he's only been in office for,
almost a
It's
whole
a
year.
priority. It will be a priority, and I think that it's never going to be a priority is the problem. We've got Joe Biden as our president, but we have these ever increasingly conservative state legislatures that are passing these anti-trans laws, and they've tried it here in Arizona with like trans sports bans and things like that. It's the goofiest law.
And it's definitely a concerted effort to, like, it's been very organized from
right.
I kind of can't help but think to compare like the situation of these anti-trans laws to all of the hand-wringing and boogeymanning about critical race theory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they are hand in hand, right? And we've experienced that here in Arizona. My sister is on the school board here in Chandler, Arizona. And we've been receiving a lot of attention, specifically because she's the only Black woman on the board. And so these people love to target her anyway. But she came on the board and was championing our equity program and the rights of our LGBTQ plus students. And specifically, she's on our school board because I was like, you need to run for our school board because I'm the mom of 2 trans kids, right? So we were having some issues, right? And nobody was listening to us. So there are 2 Black trans kids on top of it. So we were having race issues as well as gender identity issues. With the schools. And so she came in as a champion for these things, and they came in with their, their tiki torches and whatnot, and their purple shirts or whatever it is. And they protested the fact that we had an equity program in our schools. And these are the same people who have come to the school board meetings calling LGBTQ plus folks the alphabet people.
The alphabet.
I actually like the alphabet mafia. I'm like, I want to be on the. Right? I want to be an alphabet mafia.
Son, right, who is there to testify before the school board and all that kind of stuff. And they're the same folks that are protesting critical race theory. They're the same folks that are the anti-mask, anti-vax set. So it's all connected, and it's really rooted in trying to destroy public education. Because the more educated our populace is about all of the things, the less raggedy their children will end up being as adults and realize that their parents were raggedy, right? So it's all connected.
Oh yeah, I mean, like folks who, like white people, white mothers specifically, who like spat on and like attacked Black students trying to go into integrated schools, like a lot of those people are still alive.
Yeah, I mean, my parents are the same age as Ruby Bridges, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not ancient history; it's barely even history.
And it doesn't take long for people to forget that history, or for generations. I was looking at something that said something like a quarter of Gen Xers, or Gen Zers, didn't know that the Holocaust was real. And so it's just like it doesn't take very long for those sort of shifts to be made. And so especially when we're seeing places trying to specifically erase the ways that we talk about enslaved Africans, or that we talk about the history of genocide against indigenous people, right? It doesn't take a decade to wipe out that information from the upcoming generation. These are their formative years, and it just takes a couple years. It really just takes a couple years.
Well, look at the way they're already using Dr. King's words to prove that we don't need critical race theory. Like, how the hell did we get here? Ridiculous.
They heard part of I Have a Dream, and they think that they know everything. So
This is, I feel like people in power love a dead person to zombify. That to me is the term I always use. Because it's just like they literally are putting words in his mouth. They're putting a type of identity onto him. I think that's also why there's such intentional movement to take out political leaders that are especially on the side of the people, right? That he's not the first or last that has happened to him, obviously, but he is definitely the most popular in the mouths of conservatives who love to imagine that we're not in a society in which we can easily Google the rest of speeches, that we can actually listen to things that other people were alive during this time. Yeah, so we see that all the time. Because I know we're not talking about this today because we already said that we weren't. But I was thinking a little bit about that with the Dave Chappelle stuff when he was talking about a person who wasn't alive, right? And so how he could not point to an actual trans person that was living, that he loved and respected. He had to point to someone he hadn't talked to in years that had already died. Right?
And the best part about it is that because that person is no longer alive, they can't rebut what he said.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that that's one of those things that we see with MLK, right? You know, he's been lionized by folks who want colorblindness or whatever, but he's not around to say, actually, let's back that up. That is not what that's not what my speech said about, right? So it's easy to imprint that on dead folks for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's also interesting watching his daughter, right? So Bernice and everybody just being like, hey, like actually, that like in real time, she can be like, hey, actually, this is not true. And conservatives be like, your father would just, how are you going to tell her what her father said and meant?
Listen, you know, one of these days they're going to get on the wrong side of her and she's going to be like, keep my daddy's name out your mouth. Yes. And then it's all going to be over. Yes. It's going to be curtains. Because it's ridiculous. The lies, it's outright lies, and the willful misinterpretation of this man's words and his work.
Right.
And it's on purpose too.
Interpretation, it's just a lie. It's just a lie.
Yeah. Outright lie. Well, you know what? It sounds like we're getting pretty heated. So who are we fucking up this week?
Well, hold on a second. I just need to say I am very disappointed in all of you. I did not get the memo that I was supposed to have orange or green on.
You know, we channeled that. So Chris, we just channeled that collectively. So, you know, I mean, we gotta be on the same wavelength. That's a gift, okay?
I feel slighted.
I'm so sorry. And you know what? This is not even what I was gonna wear. I told you guys it's been a hectic day. This is my auntie Kafkan because I just threw on something to look halfway decent from the chest up.
I don't want to hear it, Cessi. I don't want to hear it.
I mean, we got a good palette going. You got the black, so we all got little touches of different things. You know, we got
I bring it all together. I bring it all together.
Bring it together. Okay, so apparently Chris wants to fuck us up because she didn't get the memo.
There you go.
Noted.
That's who I want to fuck up this week.
Listen, I like you waited to the show to say that because before this you was talking about wanting to mess up the state. Okay, now you want to fuck us up. Okay, listen. This is
no lie, like me.
Chris. Okay, you're supposed to love on us. Okay.
I mean, you all are like coordinated, and I was just looking at the screen, and I was like, "What's missing here?" Oh wait, it's me.
One of these things just doesn't belong here. I'm proud to have you though, even without the orange.
Thanks.
All right, so one of the things we wanted to fuck up this week was the carceral state as a whole. Who wants to tackle that?
Oh my goodness! Listen, Chris, you seem activated today. So let's you got none. What'd you say?
Where does one begin?
Yeah, exactly.
I was saying we were having this conversation about some of the cases that were coming up. You know, are dealing with Julius Jones and talking about Kyle Rittenhouse and how you know, folks assume that everything is like law and order, right? Mm-hmm. And how we love law and order, Black folks especially. Mm-hmm. Love them some SVU, yes. Right? And how it's just ingrained into us. The carceral state is ingrained into us as entertainment, right? And that's one of the reasons that I said earlier this week, I tweeted earlier this week, that I don't watch these show trials because I don't find them entertaining. I find them to be like work, right? But I don't find them entertaining, and I don't ever want to be entertained by anything that happens in our system, right? And just, you know, the trials. I said I was watching TV for the first time and had to go through some commercials and saw that there's some like new cop show like Indiana PD or some shit like that. I don't remember what it was, but it's like they're still making like shows like Cops for entertainment. I think tweeted at some point in time this week talking about these court shows being part of the carceral state, and talking about, you know, Tempe Union High School District had a meeting last night, and our progressive members held the line a couple of meetings ago with regard to getting rid of SROs, or, you know, doing a study to getting rid of SROs, right? But then
establishing a committee to research,
right? They changed last night, and it's because kids keep coming. They keep on finding these kids to come and talk about how they love SROs, and it was like, that is getting us used to the carceral state and starting them younger, right? Starting them young with you know, SROs and officer friendly and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, my children have a healthy suspicion and fear of cops, and I'm so glad. Right? I'm so glad. Even my 7-year-old. But it's just, it's ingrained in us and pushed into us in every possible way we can imagine. Phoenix District 6, the city council race, there's a black cop that's running, who's being propped up by one of our congressmen, who is his treasurer. This is a black cop who used to work for the Phoenix PD, the same Phoenix PD that is currently being investigated by the Department of Justice for civil rights violations, including the what I mentioned before with the political prosecutions and charging people as gangs, protesters as gangs and whatnot. The fact that, you know, it's cynically racist is what I would call it, because they wanted to find someone for this district that they thought that they could pull white Democrats to vote for. Yeah. And maybe not offend Black people so much, especially the old guard that loves police. And so they went for a fucking black cop. And Congressman, you know who you are. And I noticed that you had a whole lot to say in the paper this morning about one of the candidates being and whatnot for governor. And I gotta say, what the fuck do you think that you're doing when you prop up a black cop in a city at a time where we've had all of the uprisings that we had in Phoenix was deep in that. At a time when that has happened, for you to cynically pull out a fucking black cop to run for office. You don't get to call nobody racist and say somebody needs to come into account unless you're doing it yourself. You better point the finger back at yourself. So that's all I got to say about that.
And that's that mythology of being able to come together, right? So I feel like Democrats love this mythology. White Democrats, Democrats that make a lot of money off the system, all these different places. And I think some other Democrats too that, you know, believe that if they are aligned enough in the system, they can get some goodies out of it too. That, you know, if we just find this one extra moderate person, even though that has no proof of working ever, right? ever working in the favor of especially the most targeted and the people that actually move the base the most, right? And yet they keep pushing this lie, because I think it's been happening across all different cities across the country, in which there's been this, this move to paint the people in the streets that are making all the change happen seem even more irrational, or seem too quote unquote radical, you know, during this time. I'm thinking also just to the earlier part of the conversation too, just around as we make this connection between carceral states and you know, just some basic laws that are coming out. One that is sort of seen as a good new change in some of the system that I think is not, that is going to end up unfortunately criminalizing people is, you know, I've been talking to some different folks about this move for the federal government to recognize X's on passports, right? And to recognize non-binary gender identities. Now, on paper, that's really great. That's really wonderful. Well, what happens when you're also put into a position with like a TSA agent or some other state agent that is violently transphobic, right? Because that that piece completely misses the intentional cruelty of so many police officers, so many state agents, so many TSA agents that have control over whether or not trans people have a right to go from state to state, from country to country. Like, do we have a right to leave this country, right? You know, and especially I know there was some time in which there was some murky area about passports and whether or not you could change your gender on your passport during the Trump times, and which I would still say we're under the Trump times, right? but yeah, like I think that and seeing how, and to me that is very much connected to the carceral state. This place of creating policies that might help people who have the money to get a passport, right? The people that have the money to, most seem in alignment with the mainstream world, white world, right? But will also, unfortunately, in some way, end up criminalizing some folks who come into in contact with and are over policed already.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I also need to give a shout out, and I don't think we have enough time to talk about this, but currently our prison system in Arizona, our prison healthcare system, is on trial for failing to provide our prisoners with the health care they deserved and they're constitutionally owed. And so this is a trial that's been happening. I think we're going into the second week of this. So if you look up the Arizona prison healthcare system trial, I would encourage you to look at some of the oral arguments or look at some of the press that's been paying attention to this. It's important. It is so important, and it goes along the lines of the carceral state, but more importantly, the state and how we make money from prisons and how we treat prisoners as subhuman.
Even after they've been released,
one of the jail administrators said some shit like they have better access to health care than I do.
Since when?
Listen.
Like, are you kidding me? Right? So, I don't want to go off on that tangent, but when we were talking about carceral state, that made me think of that. So you all go ahead and look that up, or I'll find you some links or something like that. But it's very important, and we're going into the second week of this case.
But I've seen a lot of state agents say things like that about people that are incarcerated, though, especially around this healthcare access piece, as if like the fact that you'll see someone who never got to see a doctor until they were incarcerated does not mean that their experience of healthcare is equitable or fair or human, right? That someone be able to get like a filling because their teeth have been rotting and because they haven't been able to see a dentist in years does not mean that they've been treated humanely, right?
Right.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
And to be clear, like a lot of trans people who are incarcerated are dehumanized and disrespected, not only by where they are placed or like what kind of facility they're placed in, which may or may not be in line with their gender.
Right.
But at the same time, like folks are having trouble accessing like HRT, like affirming surgeries that they cannot get in prison because no one wants to give it to them. And they think that they don't deserve it, that that's like a premium and not like a human right.
Those are such key words, right? It's looked upon like it's some sort of a luxury and not a basic human right for someone to live to live a fully fulfilled, 100% fulfilled existence. Like everyone deserves that. Everybody deserves that. And not to mention, I believe this week, the statistics were showing, what was it? I don't want to say the wrong one, but I feel like it's somewhere around 60% of the folks in prison right now are in a pre-trial status. So they've never been convicted, but they're in prison. And it was, it's the movement to end cash bail. We need to end cash bail. There's so many innocent people who are sitting in prison having not been proven guilty of anything.
But that's the point. That's the point, right?
Right.
Because this prison system is a money-making system. It's a for-profit system. So the more people that they can get in there, the more butts they can get in the beds, the better off everyone is who benefits from that system. So, they're down with capitalism too.
Yeah.
Because I even think, and one of the things that comes up for me is even like, there are a lot of people who are actually currently incarcerated for things that are just survival crimes, right? So not even just that they did. There are some people that quote unquote committed a crime that shouldn't be a crime at all. Like that should not be, a situation, thinking about all my colleagues and loved ones who went to jail for things like having to steal medicine or food or clothes or whatever else and being shamed rather than why are we not ashamed that people are criminalized for being broke? Like that's,
We've got presentment laws here in Arizona. In fact, there was a big to-do with Phoenix Pride one year where trans queer Pueblo wanted to bring attention to the fact that we have presentment laws here. So trans folks who happen to be walking down the street and wave at someone get picked up for prostitution, right? And so, you know, they basically staged protests at Pride and stopped Pride for 2 years in a row because of that. That's just criminalizing someone for being trans, right? And when we criminalize people for just being who they are, that's a problem. I just, y'all, I need to quit. I need to go find an island. I need to go find me a sugar daddy to buy me an island. Stay here. No offense to my husband. You can come too, Michael. It's fine.
If you find one sugar daddy, if you got friends, you let us know.
Yeah.
There is room on the private jet for everyone. Okay.
Also, not to shamelessly plug, but you know, because for the Black Trans Prayer Book, you know, for folks that are interested in the survival of Black trans people, as we talk about the carceral state and thinking about how it's especially connected to religion and things like that, we're trying to make theologies of violence less common and theologies that actually center targeted communities more common and readily available and accessible and mainstream. Check us out. Please put some money in our pot at theblacktransprayerbook.org. Check us out.
Look at that shameless self-promotion. I love it.
You don't gotta glide that in. We try to make that book.
See that pretty blue cover.
Look at it. Look at
incense matches. It's so pretty.
Listen, it's so pretty. It's so pretty.
So are we moving into our slices of joy?
I think we should.
Yeah. Let's move on into our slices of joy. So, Audria, what you got?
Well, it just so happens that this weekend I am.
Oh, bro.
We're Mase's, Mase's, and a couple other folks who.
Oh, you froze for a second, Audrey.
Oh, I froze?
Now you're back.
Do I need to start over?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it just so happens that this weekend I'm flying up to Seattle, where Mase III is, and a couple other folks who are going to who have contributed to the book and are also going to be in our documentary. And I'm gonna film some stuff of Mase and of Scarlett, and also of who am I missing?
Jalen.
Yeah, rad. I'm super excited about that. It has been so long since I've been able to like film something in person. COVID-19 has been hard as an artist for many reasons. But yeah, that's my slice of joy.
Love it. We love it. Mase III, what's your slice of joy?
You know, I mean, that's my joy. My joy is that being able to create spaces, because I just want to be kind of clear that there is, when we think about especially legal violence and all the carceral state piece, I strongly believe it is so tied to the theologies that we learn that bleed out into the secular world that cause us to dehumanize targeted people, and especially Black trans folks. And so it's just such a blessing to be able to be a part of work that I feel like will help to dismantle the state violence that we experience, as well as the interpersonal, the sexual violence we experience, the street violence we experience, the financial violence we experience, just by bringing Black trans joy and experiences to the world.
I love that. Chris, what you got?
Well, geez, my slice of joy is being here with all of you.
Thanks.
That's a lot of fun. This week, or actually yesterday, I moderated a panel by the American Constitution Society of Arizona, where we talked about the abortion rights cases that are happening right now. So the two cases from Texas that deal with SB 8, a case in Arizona that deals with SB 1457, and the Dobbs case that will be argued on December 1st in front of the SCOTUS, which is the direct attack on Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. So it has it basically has the potential to upend abortion rights in this country. And the outlook is not great. But we had a really wonderful panel of attorneys who really understood, and a practitioner too. One of our abortion providers here in Arizona, shout out to Dr. Deshawn Taylor and Desert Star Family Planning. She's a Black woman who is an abortion provider and has her own clinic. But it was really heartening to listen to everyone talk about abortion rights and using the reproductive justice lens when talking about what was at stake in these cases, and how the abortion rights cases really have a significant impact on racialized folks, LGBTQ plus folks, disabled folks, poor folks, and how we need to look at things through a lens that's intersectional. I hate that word, but we need to look at things through a reproductive justice lens, right? And so I love that they were talking about those issues, because it's very important to me, especially when we're on the brink of losing Roe versus Wade. But we say repeatedly that Roe is the floor, not the ceiling. And this gives us an opportunity to really reimagine what reproductive rights and reproductive health care look like in the future. And we can invite the folks to the table who have been largely left out and silenced by the reproductive rights movement, the abortion rights movement. So that's racialized folks. That's Black and brown and indigenous folks, right? That's LGBTQ plus folks. Shouts out to everybody on my panel using gender inclusive language yesterday without me having to ask them to. That is disabled folks who are often left out of any discussions, because people get really weird about talking about disabled people and sex. So I feel very hopeful, although I know Roe is on the way out and it's sad and blah, blah, blah. I'm very hopeful that we can have discussions and create a new framework that centers the folks that are most impacted, because white ladies are always gonna be able to get abortions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Y'all take a seat. Take a seat in the back.
That framing that framing is so important, just to me, just because of so many people, including myself, I think, have been trained that, if Roe versus Wade falls, that's it, we're kind of done, versus that never covered all of us anyway. Let's think imaginatively. So I just think it's such a necessary framing.
Abortion is legal in all 50 states and DC.
Mm-hmm.
But accessibility is the real issue, right? We can be legal all day long and twice on Sundays. If folks can't don't have meaningful access to abortion, then it's just like not having abortion rights at all.
Yeah.
And for our largest swaths of the country, that is true.
Yeah. Well, y'all, I have a very big slice of joy. I have a whole pie of joy.
Okay.
Ooh.
Pie. You got whole pie of joy.
Yeah, and it's delicious, because the Frontline has decided this year we're not acknowledging the holiday season. We are not doing that. We have rebranded the holiday season as self-care season. And we have a whole host of events that will be happening starting tonight. If you check out any of our social media channels, or you can also register to get access to the Zoom, we'll be broadcasting the Family Talk. And the Family Talk is all about public education around COVID-19, the vaccines, the boosters, and how to actually respond, and coaching on how to actually start a discussion with your loved ones, not just your family, but your loved ones in general, people you care about COVID-19, public health, and vaccinations, because a lot of people use really salty language when they're talking to their people about this situation. It doesn't help anything. So we will have some medical experts, people that actually can read the research, people that read and understand and digest the research and be able to break it down into real real language for those of us who are not experts, and explain to us what exactly is going on and what we can do to keep each other safe. And in keeping with that, oh, I didn't give you the schedule. So tonight is the family talk. Next week is all about prepping you mentally, you know, going through some exercises to prep us all mentally on how we are going to deal with our family over this pending holiday season. We're going to help y'all de-stress and bring things down and keep us hopeful throughout the season. After that, we're having one of my favorite events, which is the family dinner party. And we have some really cool folks who are going to be showing us how to do some cocktail mocktails, entree. Hopefully we'll get the incredible Leslie Mack to do a dessert for us. We'll see.
And she's always killing on social media with the desserts too.
Yeah. So hopefully
making me hungry.
Yeah, and then on the 10th, so the dinner party is on the 3rd. On the 10th, we have a very special mini concert with Kindred the Family Soul, which should be a lot of fun. And hopefully they'll do another talk back and talk to us about how their family has been coping with the pandemic. And then our very last event, we don't acknowledge, you know, resolutions. We're not acknowledging resolutions. We're going to talk about how we are going to win in 2022. It's all about vision. It's a vision board party, and it's all about how we envision where we want to be, the goals we want to have for ourselves, for each other in 2022. So this, you got to get on board. We will be really spamming y'all on our media channels, probably starting next week, with all of this good stuff on self-care season. And in keeping with that, next week on the Facebook page, I am re-releasing our Everyday Blackness series, which was an idea that Leslie and I kind of hatched together, and then I was just nosy and started interviewing people that I knew and asking them all kinds of personal questions about their lives, and folks really gave me some great nuggets. So every day next week on our Facebook page, sometimes twice a day, we'll be re-releasing the stories and videos of folks who participated in our Everyday Blackness series. A really cute one, which will come which I think is scheduled to come up on Friday, is our mutual friend, Chris Early, talking about her grandmother and how she snatched her balls. Because, you know, we've all had that happen. You have a relative or your mom your hair, and next thing you know, you don't have any hair. Yeah. It's happened to all of us. So she talks about that. And on Thursday, we have a special thank you shout out video that Leslie and I did for the folks who participated in Everyday Blackness, along with Leslie's beautiful family. It's a really great video. You don't want to miss it. If you miss it, it's fine. It's on our online channels. You'll find it again. And that's it, y'all.
That was a smorgasbord.
Yeah, well, it was a generous pie. It was a generous pie.
The Golden Corral. I mean,
ooh, the buffet, yes.
Buffet. Or more like a shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is like this big.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to thank each of you. Thank you so much, J. Mase III and Audria LB. Thank you for joining us this week. I'm so happy to have you with us. Thank you, Chris. I have to say, I'm like a little bit misty here, but this is my last show of the year. I have some pretty big things coming up tomorrow, and then I have decided that I'm not going to work in December because I believe in self-care season starts with yourself. So I'm done for the year, and I will be back in January on the front line. We have some very capable folks that are going to keep the front line going while I'm gone, but I'm going to miss this, Chris. Every Thursday I get to you.
I know. Well, I will just call you without having to plan a show.
Oh yeah, we could call each other and not record it. Yeah.
What?
We just do like, regular friends.
I'm gonna send you a calendar of Christmas horror movies, Cessi.
Oh yes, yeah, that's right. Because spooky season doesn't end on October 31st. We keep it going.
That's not. I'm gonna do a calendar of Thanksgiving horror movie or Turkey Day horror movies because I don't really acknowledge Thanksgiving. But Turkey Day horror movies, I will release that on Sunday, and you can watch a movie all week long, every day.
Oh yes, oh yes.
There are just about that many Thanksgiving horror.
Well, that'll be perfect because I will not be doing anything at all until December 1st. I'm going to be a vegetable I'm going to be like Lint. Lint just lays there until the breeze blows, you know.
Well, good luck on your surgery, Cessi. We love you. Take your time. Do the things. Enjoy your mom being there.
Oh my God. I'm just kidding.
We already talked about that a little bit, have we? And enjoy your time off. You deserve.
Yes.
And don't cook anything.
Oh no.
I ordered Thanksgiving dinner for the family. I ordered it from a restaurant because I have decided I'm not going to kill myself trying to make Thanksgiving this year.
No, we're not cooking.
And I don't like turkey that much, so I won't have like a week of turkey leftovers.
Yeah. No, we don't do that anymore. We're done with that. So thank you again. Thank you all for sticking with us and for watching the show. And y'all take care of each other. Smooches. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.